Hi guys, welcome back to Scotty's Backyard Barbecue. Barbecuing the way of life, folks. Today we're going to do a salt crusted brisket. Got this recipe from the Old Food Network shows way many years ago. I come across it on one of them shows I was watching somewhere along the line. I've done salt crusted chicken, I've done salt crusted sea bass, but I never salt crusted a brisket. Alright, we're going to be seasoning it up with some Uncle Steve's thick meat. We're going to be hitting it with some rosemary in with the salt. I just got a cheap old brisket, nothing fancy. We're going to trim it down, take it out to the smoker, smoke it for 145 degrees internal. Take it off, we're going to let it cool, and then I'll show you what we're going to do after that, folks, okay? Let me get this brisket out of the package and trimmed up. Alright guys, we're just going to do your basic trim, nothing fancy. Actually we're going to do a whole different trim. We're going to make this as kind of small as possible. Yeah, I want this to fit into a cookie sheet. This is not going to be your, your award-winning trim. Still partially frozen. We're going to save some of this, grind it up, make some meatballs. For a meatball sandwich. You ever watched Man Kitchen? He made a meatball sandwich the other day that was killer. I gotta do that, folks. I'll leave a link to Kevin's meatball sandwich down below. You can go check that out. That's an awesome meatball sandwich he made. Whoa, come on, Mom. That's why I never videotape me trimming a brisket. I never do safe knife skills, folks. So don't do what I do, folks. So I got a band-aid on my hand. Nah, I got that from cleaning a smoker the other day. So. This is a very unorthodox trimming method I'm doing here today, folks. You'll see how this pans out. What we're going to do is we're going to, let's see about rounding this off a little bit. We don't have to worry about really rounding anything because we're not going to, this is going to be a whole different type of cook. We're going to make it small, flat, kind of like a competition style brisket. We're going to give it a little bit of a foot shape, kind of like that. Still partially frozen. Makes it a lot easier trimming. There we go. Perfect. And all this I'm going to grind up for those. I'm going to do that meatball sandwich like Kevin did. That's a perfect size little brisket. I went and got the smallest brisket I could find. Smallest, cheapest brisket. I got a big old chunk of fat here. I want to get that out of there though. Boy, it's sure nice when it's frozen though. We're not worried too much about aerodynamics. Like I say, this you can also do this in your oven, folks. You don't have to use a smoker. But we're going to do the smoker today. Well, you can tell a cheap brisket, boy, they got fat in the weirdest places on this one. Not a very high quality brisket here, folks. Always buy your brisket from the local butcher shop if you can. If you want high quality. This is a cheap old choice brisket, folks. That big old cut right there, folks. There we go. That don't look too bad. We got us a nice little brisket. We got a nice little cap right here we're going to try to get rid of. Ah, looks good there, folks. Maybe get rid of this little snaggy piece here. Alright. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to season this up. No binder, folks. None at all. We want this to be as dry as we can. We're going to take some of this Uncle Steve's thick meat. Very good stuff. You never go wrong, Uncle Steve. We're going to season this all the way around, folks. Thick meat means thick sauce. Thick sauce means thick rub. Rub that all in. You can tell I'm old school because I'm rubbing my rub. Just like we did in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Leave a comment down below when rubs started becoming a pat. If you know the year. I'm thinking the new millenniums. When the barbecue people started. Competition. Ah! Let's run this out and throw it in the Weber smoke fire. I got set up, warmed up at 250 degrees. We're going to probe it. When it hits 140, we'll pull it back in and I'll show you what else we're going to do. Alright, we'll be right back, folks. Hang on, I'll meet you outside. Alright guys, here we got the old brisket. Got the Weber smoke fire fired up. We got it at 250 degrees. We're going to probe these in a couple spots. Alright, now we're going to take it up to about 140, 145. That's when a piece of meat usually stops taking smoke. Alright. We'll be back at that point when it hits 145, and then I'll show you what else we're going to do. Alright guys, I pulled this out when it hit about 140. Not a bad looking brisket there, folks. Can you see that? There you go. I took on all the smoke it's going to take. And what we're going to do is get this bowl. We're going to dump a 3-pound box of kosher salt. I guess I could have just opened the top up. Make it come out faster, but let's see if we can do that, folks. We'll be here a while. My box skills. There you go. 1 3-pound box of kosher salt. In this glass, we have 9 egg whites. That's what they're calling for, folks. And you will mix this up into your salt. 9 egg whites, 3-pound box of kosher salt. They say if it doesn't look right, you can always add a little bit more water. Now, I've salt crusted chicken and fish before, but never a brisket. I've seen people salt crusting prime rib and tri-tips and stuff, but let's try it on a brisket, see what happens. And what we're going to do also, I used to do the tri-tip, add a little rosemary to it. I don't know what that does, but it'll look pretty. And a little bit more rosemary. There you go. Smells good, that rosemary. See if we make a ball. Not too bad. Alright. Now we're going to take some of this salt. We're going to place it on a cookie sheet that I lined with some foil. I got more salt if we need more. I don't know if that's going to be enough or not. About a 1/4 inch thick. Looks like we might have to do a little more salt. Spread it out. Make sure you got it all plastered good together. I'm going to take this brisket and we're going to set it right on top of that salt. I left the probe in. We'll see why here in a minute. Then we're going to take the remainder of this salt and we're going to put it right on top of this beautiful brisket. Like that. Hope you can see that, folks. Now we're going to cave in the sides. Oh, hope we got enough salt. Might have to make up a little more salt. Not quite got enough. But we got one more box though. Flying by our seat here, folks. We need a couple more egg whites, folks. There we go. I see why they use egg whites. It's a little gummier. Makes it more of a gluey. I'll try to get the full recipe down below, folks. There we go. I go 5 cups of salt, maybe 2 boxes of salt. A little more rosemary. Yeah, don't use water, folks. Use mostly egg white. My bad. Oh yeah, that's a lot gummier there, folks. Alright. Now I'm going to finish up this back by this probe. Back in here. Maybe you should let that brisket cool down a little bit, folks. I feel a little heat coming out of there and it doesn't want to stick. Well, that's the way the cookie crumbles, folks. There you go. Salt crusted brisket. Let's go put that back in the smoker. Back in the smoker at 275 degrees until the internal temperature hits 200. Alright, we'll monitor with this thing here. We got the probe. Alright, I'll put this back in and I'll show you back later. Alright guys, there it is. The old salt crusted brisket. Try to get you centered in there. Cool down for about 1 hour. Supposed to break it off. Alrighty. Knock all the salt off. Get that bad boy out of here. Look at that beautiful brisket, folks. On Food Network, they had a little paintbrush that they got all this off with. Get as much of that salt off as you can. Put it on the cutting board. Let's get rid of this. Alright, folks. The grain is running this way. I'm so excited. Hang on a minute, folks. I forgot one thing. Alright, folks. There it is. Grain's running this way. Let's see how we did. It kind of shrunk up a little bit. It wasn't about that big. It shrunk that big. This was a cheap brisket, so let's go right down the middle. See how the old smoke fire. Remember, we smoked it till 145. That beautiful smoke ring that machine does. Look at that. Juicy. I hate it when I squeeze my meat, but YouTubers like to see it. So don't get much juicier than that, folks. Salt crusted brisket. Now, I've done salt crusted sea bass, chicken, prime rib, but never a brisket. Look at that. Beautifully cooked. Beautiful, tender. Now let's see if it's salty. Remember we put the Uncle Steve's on the outside? Oh, that is seasoned perfect, folks. Not salty, just perfect. Look at that. Beautiful. Let's try the fatty part. Whoa. Look at that juice. It retained all that juice, folks. It's just running out of there. Wow. Let's try a little bit of that point. There's that point that was sitting on the salt. This is seasoned to perfection, folks. This could be a new way of doing your brisket. I remember we did the salt, just mix up, I do 5 or 6 cups, I just did about 4 cups. So if you're doing a big brisket, I do more than you think you need. Look at that, folks. Just running out of there. This is probably the juiciest brisket I ever cooked in about 5 years, folks. I ain't kidding you. And that little cocoon of salt, cocoon, it held all its juices. None of it got out. Alright, folks. There you have it. Beautiful, juicy. Man, I can't stop eating it. Well seasoned. Tender. Alright, we gotta try the sauce. Food Network whipped up a salad and this is a half a cup of sour cream and a couple tablespoons of horseradish in here. I don't know how that's going to taste, but let's try it. Food Network style. Oh, man. That sauce is killer, folks. Ooh. Man, this is amazing. The most amazing brisket you'll ever make right here, folks. Sour cream and horseradish. Let's plate it up. I really don't want this video to end, folks. Do a little fatty part. Watch the juices, folks. Oh, yeah. All that sour cream on there. Sour cream horseradish. There you go. I should have went and got a salad. Put a little salad on there. And you got yourself a beautiful brisket dinner. Alright, folks. Thanks for watching Scotty's Backyard Barbecue. Well, barbecue is a way of life, folks. You have to try this. Alright, guys. I had to jump back on here. I was picking up a really unique flavor when I was doing this taste test, folks. And I realized it was that rosemary that we put in that salt. Somehow the rosemary got into this meat and it gave this a great, unique flavor, folks. I don't know how I did it, but you can sure taste that well seasoned and that rosemary on the tail end of this brisket, folks, and it was just amazing. Anyways, I thought I'd jump back in and tell you about that. I was sitting there wondering, man, there's a pretty darn good flavor in this brisket, and that can't be from that Uncle Steve's. It's different. And it's that rosemary that got infused into this meat from that rock salt being cooked in there, folks. Alright. Thanks for jumping in there. I'll tell you about it. Bye.